cosmic conversation. Go ahead and turn that off, or at least lower it. Maybe I'll turn that off just in case they they take me off here. Hi everybody, Ivy here with Livzenastrology. That is continuing a 30-day cosmic conversation. This is day 6 in this Gemini season of, talking about the energy, talking about it through the astrological lens of the tool of astrology. So if you love astrology, if you love learning more about yourself, about getting deeper with cosmic energies, with higher level thinking, with ways that maybe perhaps you've never seen the energies through the astrological lens, this is a very neutral language that's spoken. Livzenastrology comes from the maxim that all is self. So we come from unity consciousness. I call myself a radical oneness practitioner, which even today when I was preparing for this, my source self was like, you're invoking in the radical oneness. That means you're going to be invoking in radical duality. So just, know the language. And so this is something I might have to go and even change my label, right? Because I don't want the radical, maybe I do, I've got Aquarius 3rd house, but anyway, it's been a mantra for me to really anchor in this oneness frequency, this oneness consciousness for my own anchor, right? Because again, I've had really incredible experiences with the toad medicine. You guys know, if you're fellow psychonauts, you know what 5-MeO is. And through those 2 experiences that I've had that back in 2018 that I've still been integrating, and here we are in 2025, right? And so I'm still getting, awarenesses and downloads from this whole experience that I had with this very potent poison, right? But the correct dose actually brought me into a field of energy that I have since been remembering, right? My spiritual practices in 2018, which was when Uranus went into Taurus, was about anchoring in all of this awareness that in my experience that I had with the medicine. And I haven't been drawn to do any, the medicine again. And, I really, I don't need it, right? I got what I needed. I got the codes, and now it's about integrating it into the body. That's why Livzenastrology comes from this radical oneness perspective, because I tapped into it. I saw it. I felt it. It's all you. It's all me. It's like the cosmic joke. One of the things that when I was coming out of this field of consciousness is I saw the laughing Buddha, right? He was laughing at me like, ha, 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 it's all you. And you're going to remember this when you die, so you might as well remember it now while you're alive and just going through the ego death. Anybody that's ever experienced Bufo or Bufo medicine realizes that a part of your ego dies, that you're basically, when you're imbibing with that medicine, you're willing to release that aspect of self, right? So since that ego death, I've actually even gone through name changes, right? Because the part of me that my birth name identified with Carmela, again, I studied the root language, South Node in Gemini, I have natally. I look at the root of even my name, right? So my name, if I'm looking at the etymology, means in Hebrew, God's garden, which is interesting because I'm not even Jewish, but I have a Jewish name. And, the name Karma, Carmela, karma is in the name, right? And so I've known from a very young childhood that I've been here to clean my karma, right? Clear my ancestral lineage of collective karma, not just for myself, but my ancestors. And I'm being shown here to actually share with you my own personal wheel today to show you why I think the way I think, where I pull this data, this information from, why I speak the way I speak about oneness from my experiences. And so with this collective energy that wants to come through today, again, talking about the deeper matters, going into my own inner whale, that's willing to go deeper into the consciousness. Now, those of you know me also too, I speak in metaphor and I speak again in a tone and a language. I would just ask that you just maybe allow yourself to hear the words, but really tune into the frequency of what's being said. And I would just ask this humbly. And before we continue on, as I'm holding on to the beautiful quartz crystal geode that I was gifted when I went to the Serpent Mountain in Ohio. I've been really working with this crystal, this energy. And if you guys know about crystals, it holds information and data, and that's what our computers are made of, right? This is what the synthetic world has been, the components of are crystals and data and information. And so when I went to the equinox, the snake mound, No, remember, it's the year of the snake, and it's a 9 year, it's a year of completion. And so it really holds the codes to this completion energy that I've been able to tap into. And so before even transmitting, I like to do a ritual. I went outside and grounded. That's why I'm wearing my copper. I've got a copper bracelet on, and I've got the rose for higher heart thinking, right? To just really increase my vibration as this transmission wants to come through. I'm just the vessel. I'm just the channel that wants to be spoken through today. So releasing, the ego can step aside and just allow the divine to come through. And so for when this video comes across any of you who are watching, who are connected, just if you want for a moment, just take a breath with me as we are getting ready to enter these sacred realms, these sacred shadow realms within the human collective psyche of the energy and frequency of jealousy, with the intention really to upgrade the language. So just taking a breath with me. Let's take a deep breath in for the count of 4. Let's hold for 4. Let's release for 4. And let's hold at the bottom of the release for 4, okay? And let's go ahead and do that 4 times. Let's set the grid. I know it's going to take a little time. And again, this is setting the intention, the frequency that so we can collaborate our brain waves so that you can glean the information in the manner in which it's given, which is from the heart and the mind, with the intention to really serve humanity with this perhaps upgraded language. And so let's breathe this in together with intention, because everything's intention, and whatever you're meant to receive, that you're going to receive at this time. And it is for your highest, most resonant, balanced timeline experience. So let's breathe that in together with the count of 4. And let's hold the breath for 4. Again, inhale for 4, hold for 4, release for 4, and at the bottom of the release, hold for 4, and we'll do that 4 times together. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes and take a nice deep inhale for 4. In through the nose, there's a filtration system, holding for 4. Releasing through the mouth, for the count of 4. Holding at the bottom of the release for 4. Let's do that 3 more times together. I'm just going to breathe. And last time together. Inhale for 4. Thank you, divine nature, divine creator intelligence. Thank you for being here with us in this holy, sacred conversation as we are exploring the language and the vibration and the frequencies and the energy of jealousy and its counterpart, love, and its reflection through duality, so that it may be fully expressed through the eyes and unity of the heart, which is oneness, which is where we all have emerged from this energy field. And as we explore these concepts, these vibrations, let us access through our ancestors, through our own inner wisdom, our knowledge that we carry within our genome, within our DNA, within our structures, to access that highest vibration energy to be expressed through us as we are pondering and considering these energies, as we are willing to experience the next octave of whatever jealousy has meant in the past. And we are willing to look at it through reverence and through deep sincerity of authenticity, of how this energy is expressed through humanity, and none of us are exempt from experiencing it, but it's how we experience it and what we do with the energy that matters, moving from this point now, this now time moment, because now is all we have. So coming from the now, coming from this time and space, whenever you receive this, to come from your highest octave self, for yourself and for others, for all of us. And we invoke in this grid, this golden frequency light of transmutation and transmission and unconditional love for all of it, because we are here to experience all of it. but we're ready to have a new experience with this collective energy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. So yeah, that wanted to be invoked in today. So thank you for taking that extra time and breath with me to set the sacred grid of intention as we are speaking on jealousy. Let me take a sacred breath of a drink of water here. I recycle my coconut glass. I like drinking out of glass and again, blessing the water out because it all matters, right? So I was instructed to come on here and explore 30 days of astrology, not really knowing exactly what the astrology wants to come through, just kind of coming from a very organic space. Because I look at the chart every day, I look at my own chart, I look at my progressed relocated chart, I look at my natal chart, and then I look at the transiting energies, right, to see what portals of energy are activated when things are in transit, right? Things are in movement. And I was awoken up at 4 a.m. early this morning with, and maybe you guys can relate because of all these solar flares and energetics that are happening on the planet, our sleep patterns can be very erratic, right? So as these dynamos of electrical energies are coming into our current systems, you know, and we're transcending time, you know, these insights, these electrical impulses that are activating our neural pathways, which is Gemini, comes through, and I'm, you know, we're transcending time. So whenever it comes through, you got to catch it, right? So if you're being woken up at all hours of the night, just know that from what I am experiencing, that's normal, that there are terabytes of information that are coming through. So whatever you can do to support yourself and your body during these transmission times is just really important. And so, you know, coming into these transmission areas with this 30 days of astrology, what came in at 4 this morning and what has been coming into my algorithm on YouTube, right? Because I have my algorithms set specifically to things that I'm interested in, to podcasts, to videos, right? And so what's been coming up a lot in my feed has been the dialogue with the spiritual leader, Aubrey Marcus, and what's going on with his beloved Vailana Marcus, right? Because that's what I follow, the spiritual community. So there's a lot of dialogue right now about this couple coming out with their open conversation about their choice in polyamory and their dialogue about it. Now, I'm going to be transparent. I have not allowed myself, or my guides have not allowed me to watch the video in full, because like I said yesterday, I got almost nauseous when I was starting to listen to it. I mean, I was just tuning into the frequency and the language, and it's just like, oh, right. So my inner child's like, yeah, no, not yet. You're not ready for that conversation yet. So what came in at 4 this morning is like, why did that, was it a trigger? I mean, because it didn't really trigger me. I wasn't really upset by it, but I was definitely feeling a repulsion energy to what was being projected in this conversation, right? So it was an invitation for me to go deeper into what repulsive energy, what am I feeling? Is this mine, first of all? I always say going through a filtration system, right? So whenever you get data or information or knowledge or light, I would invite you to go through, I use a visual of like going through a Berkey filter, right? Going through layers of sediment, of earth, of the bones, of my structure before it gets to truth, before it distills into a purified form, right? I also call it tumbling the raw. When you have a raw crystal and you want it in a smooth form, then you tumble around it, right? You put it in a tumbler, which metaphor is the mind, right? You tumble ideas around until it's smooth in your hand and you can hold it and you can have some resonance with the different thought forms that are coming in, because you know, you're going to see my chart later. I'm going to be transparent about, I'll show you guys my chart about why I think the way I think is in working with collective energies, because I have my Mercury, which is the god of communication, in Scorpio in the 12th house, which is the underworld, the netherworld. Pisces is the ocean, right? It's the part of us that can't be seen, which in some occult texts, they call that the netherworld. And in what's interesting, the story about Mercury, and we all have Mercury somewhere in our chart. So you guys can go and check to see what sign Mercury is in and which house placement it is, because that's going to denote how you think, what you think about, how you communicate, right? Your ideas, your thought forms. And so I think a lot of metaphors, Pisces, very artistic, right? I get a lot of downloads which makes me, and I didn't realize it, why I'm so drawn to divination cards, right? I really love the artistry. And I feel like that's a way for me to see things that are hidden within, you know, the vision. Pisces is visual, right? It's not so much words, but it's about images. That's why there's a lot of Pisces out there that are artists, right? So the way I see energy through the lens of Scorpio, which is penetrating, which is research mode, right? Seeing the underworld. I always say that I came into this realm with X-ray vision goggles, right? With night vision goggles. And so it's been sort of a dance for me, because when I first meet people, I meet their shadows, right? Because of the way my Mercury in Scorpio, it's my operating system. So it's been a challenge for me to raise what I'm visualize, what I'm seeing, to their higher heart self, to go, wow, this is their shadow playing out. And so how can I love that? How can I love that aspect, even though I want to judge it, even though it's so clear to me? And sometimes with people, when you're reflecting or you're just having a conversation and you just kind of bring things up casually that you just observed in them, it triggers them, right? How did you see that? Right. So this has also been sort of the challenging aspect of having Mercury in Scorpio natally. And if any of you guys have Mercury in Scorpio, if you can relate, just put that in the comments. So all of us have Mercury. We all have Scorpio somewhere in the chart. Mine just happens to be together. So again, when I'm looking at these things, sorry, I'm adjusting my copper bracelet. When I'm looking at these things, I tend to look at the deeper, what's really hidden in the shadows of what people are saying, of how they're presenting themselves. Excuse me. Because body language is also very important, right? It also tells more than the words, because words are a forked tongue. Sometimes words that creates worlds can be divisive, even in the language. And again, when you go deeper into the language of things, you realize that this has been a very encoded language of duality itself. And so we're projecting duality through the language. So true truth, that's why the mystics say that true truth is ineffable, can't be spoken on. It's just a vibration. That's why our ancestral tribes would just use guttural sounds, right? Just, clicking, just different things, because it would transcend language. Language was a construct. And when you want to get into different realms of thinking, then you got to transcend the construct, that language. So this is an attempt to rectify the construct, the duality of the energy of jealousy, because when it shows up, it can be very triggering, right? It could be very, it's uncomfortable in the body. And jealousy is something that we all experience. None of us on this planet are exempt from having felt jealousy or have experienced jealousy, right? So it's not a matter of if it shows up, it's when it shows up, how it shows up, where it's showing up. This is why we like to look at the chart, right? Who's being activated? Who are the players involved in this jealousy field as we're all navigating? Why is it showing up for you, right? Why are you being triggered into these things? Because I feel like the triggers are your medicine. And so when you're observing the field and something comes into your field to trigger you, that's for you. In my gnosis, from how I've experienced it, I call it somebody activating your landmine, a landmine that has been set into your mind, into your field, maybe into your genome, that's ready to be released, right? Think of like an alchemic expression, like a chemical reaction, like a buried bomb, if you will, that's been in the psyche, embedded into our DNA, into our constructs, possibly inherited from the wounds of the mother. And we're going to go into further on that when we're looking at the wounds of the feminine in jealousy, and how that's been perpetrated within our collective energy field, having a dominant patriarchy that's been inverted, right? That's been in its distortion, right? A distorted field of this thing. So we're going to be able to look at that and explore that, especially right now with the trine is Aquarius and Pluto, and it's trining this new moon energy. We just had Mercury, how we think, go into Gemini. And so I want to backtrack a little bit into the story of Gemini, because if you look at the archetype of Gemini and you follow the pantheon of Roman and Greek mythology, the story of Mercury, or Hermes, he was the only god. He's considered an androgen, or hermaphroditic in nature, meaning Mercury, Hermes, had the properties of masculine and feminine within them. That's why they say it's the duality. It's the poles that holds both the poles of creation within this god. And because of that, this particular god was the only god in the pantheon that could go to the underworld, that could go to Hades unscathed, right? So he could traverse the highest realms, which would be Mount Olympus, and he can also traverse the lowest realms, which is Hades, right? And so with that, which is called the Psychopomp, which is able to go into the netherworld, which is our unconscious, and gather information, data, intel of things that are hidden into the netherworld. Scorpio, Hades, Pluto, which is rules the netherworld, and comes out with, a higher octave thinking of what's really going on underneath the soil, underneath the planet, underneath the cave system of Earth, right? These are all things that are hot topics right now, especially if we're looking at what's going on with Giza and these new structures that are just being seen, that have been there for who knows how long, but are just now being seen, right? So this is also that sun shining, these maybe inner Earth technologies that are starting to come online that we've never seen before. I'm even seeing some of social media saying there's even cities underneath, back in Hollywood, right? That there are tunnels and whole other worlds of beings that live in the netherworld, right? So this is all Pluto, Aquarius, groups, big cities. Like what? Like inner Earth beings? What? What's going on there? Like Sasquatch is real? What? We're starting to see and really allow ourselves to engage in these higher level ideas. But I digress. Let me go back. Because, and then I've asked my guides for this too. What we're exploring in today's topic, again, the netherworld, the nether regions of consciousness. And jealousy seems to be the hot topic right now, especially in relation to relationships, right? Into sacred relationships, partnerships, communities. And, going back to Aubrey and Vailana, I really honor them living out loud and allowing themselves to be this collective catalyst for this conversation. And no matter where you are in your journey, as you're exploring sacred relationship, sacred sexuality, again, all Scorpio topics, how you're navigating, if you're exploring these concepts of polyamory and what that really means, sharing the other, right? I think of especially since Neptune and Saturn went into Aries, it's like the image was coming through is like Aries as a child doesn't like to share their toys, right? And Aries has the energy, I would say the inverted energy that it's been propagated on this planet of competition, right? Of sibling rivalry, right? We rival each other. And how I got this is, again, 4:00 this morning, this image came through of jealousy, and then being invited in to explore these podcasts that kept talking about what's going on with the spiritual leaders in the spiritual community and how people are navigating this divisive energy that has just appeared, by people expressing how they want to share their sex and how they want to share their lives, right? So there's been a lot of backlash. So to me, that's telling me that there's something being activated within our collective unconscious for all of us, that we need to address these energies within us and how we're projecting and how we are engaging in our relationships with these very triggering energies that all of us feel, right? So again, having gone into Gemini season, I look at the words, I look at the base language, and I was told to look up the word jealousy. Now, for those of you that study astrology, and I talked about this a few videos ago about this rulership book, which is like my Bible, and it's basically, it's a book of every word that could ever be thought of. So this is what it looks like here. You can see that there's words that are corresponding. Now I don't need to images, but to signs and symbols. I can't really see this right here. But anyway, so I was told to look up the word jealousy and which planetary energies really hold that vibration of the word jealousy when you're speaking it, when you're invoking it. And so the planetary aspects that rule the word jealousy is Saturn, Scorpio, and Neptune. So then as an astrologer, or someone who practices astrology and who uses astrology as a tool to navigate and give voice to these energies, I was called to go and look at my own chart, right? And to look at the transiting charts of where these energies are right now. And then I was like, oh, duh, well, Saturn and Neptune is in Aries. Well, shit, that makes sense. Okay. And Scorpio right now, Mars is the ruling planet, or was the original ruling planet of Scorpio before they discovered Pluto, right? So I know that Mars is also the ruler of Aries. So see how I put these together? I just kind of put the pieces of the puzzle as I'm looking through the golden thread of truth to navigate how these systems work within me. This is just how I start gathering the pieces of the puzzle of astrology, if you will, within my own gnosis. And I'm just here to share that, right? So you're going to do it for yourself and it's going to come out unique to you, but this is just with this channel and how we're exploring it through this language. And so what I was told to also look at is the etymology of jealousy and where it originated from, like which part of the country, which part of the world, what was invoked in when you were speaking it. And so it's actually Old French that used to mean keen, zealous, and avariciousness. Avariciousnesses. I think I'm spelling it right. Avaricious. Okay. And then eventually it ended up with a Greek connotation that transformed into zelios, which means emulation, rivalry, and zeal, right? So when you're looking at jealousy, and what the key word that came into mind was rivalry, which very much denotes Aries, right? Because Aries is the competitor, it's the rivalry, it's sibling rivalry, it's where we compete with others, where we compete with ourselves. And in my own retrospect, how jealousy has shown up for me in the past, it's been, well, let's just take a look at let's look at the chart and let's see, first of all, collectively, where these energies are showing themselves. So I would also invite you guys to, I'm going to be showing different wheels today, but this is the wheel that's happening right now for this new moon energy, May 26th, and it's coming in at 11:02 p.m. exact. And so yesterday, if you want to check that out, we were talking about the Gemini downloads and, the frequencies that were coming in from that transmission. And so that was yesterday's, and I'll put that video below. But again, we're still on this crux, this flow, because we know right now Mercury is in Gemini, right? So the Psychopomp, the god that rules the underworld, is aspecting or having a conversation with Pluto, which rules the underworld, which is they're getting along. So in other words, Pluto's saying, you know what? I'm going to show you some secrets. I'm going to share with you some things that have been hidden about you, about your psyche, third house, about sun, how you've been actually projecting your reality, moon, how you've actually been feeling your true feelings about jealousy, how it showed up, and perhaps how it's with this harmonious flow, it's showing us how to best navigate it, right? And to upgrade how we perceive jealousy, how we experience jealousy, and how we project it onto the other. So, and again, this is just me deep diving into my own gnosis with it. This is just what wanted to be brought through the collective, because I'm seeing that people are being triggered, right? Things that are being revealed about their own psyche and their own relationship, navigating their sexuality, right? Because that's also what Pluto rules, is sexuality. And we see right now, Scorpio right now has got the black moon, which is parts of us that won't be controlled, right? And you can look at the archetype of black moon Lilith, right? But supposedly before there was Adam and Eve, there was Adam and Lilith. And she's the part of us that won't be controlled, that won't be dominated, right? She's the very independent feminine. I think of like the Sigma female, right? Is very much an archetype of Black Moon Lilith. Repression, suppression, sexual injury, things that have been, for the feminine especially, deeply suppressed, and shame body. And we've got the Midhaven in Scorpio right now. We've also got Vesta, which is where we've come to heal. I think of the Vestal Virgins, right, that held the fire in Rome and Greece, because that was a symbol of the life force of the empire at that time, right? So the Vestal Virgins were considered in high esteem, so much so that they were given property at the end of their, I believe it was 30 or 40-year commitment to not having sex and to keeping the fire of Rome lit, right? So again, this is Scorpio energy. This is also steadfast. It's fixed water. So we really need to be looking at these things, because we're being constantly bombarded until we're willing to look at these aspects and these hidden shadow versions of us that, guys, when I say shadow, it's not meant to be scared or fearful, although sometimes the shadow can surprise us with the imbalances that shows us where we've been operating. If our hormones have been out of balance, or, we've had really severe trauma in early childhood. This is also Chiron and Aries that's showing up as jealous tendencies. And I can remember just, Dad, I can tell the story, okay? My dad transitioned back in January, and I can remember as a child, he had a sister, my Aunt Teresa, And they've all since transitioned. Everybody on that side of the family has since transcended and transitioned. And so I can talk about these things, are giving me permission. And so I can remember my dad and my Aunt Teresa always being very competitive, right? And they were competitive with us because my Aunt Teresa had her 2 children and my dad had his 2 children, right? Both boy, girl. And I would hear them, my cousins and I would be sitting playing, doing our thing, right? Just wanting to hang out. And I could hear my dad and my Aunt Teresa bickering and competing over whose child was better at what, right? And I remember my cousins and I just sitting there playing, and we didn't care who was, it was irrelevant to us. But remember, this is before the age of 7 when I was hearing these conversations. So doing my own deep dive with my experience of jealousy and where I learned it and where I heard and where I was taught to compete, right? All of a sudden, when I would do something or my brother would do something and it was better than his sister's brother or children, my cousins, then my dad would have this like proud gleam in his eye, right? You're like, yeah, that's my daughter, that's my son, right? And so there was approval about being the best, right? My dad always said that. He's like, I don't care what you do in life, just be the best at it. And so that's been ingrained. That's been this sort of my driver that I didn't realize was my driver, because there's been a little bit of a conflict in me, because there's also a part of me that doesn't like to compete, right? I have this weird dynamic where, because of where my transits are, because it's 5th house, I just like to have fun. But there's also that secret need, that embedded need for approval, right? That I receive from early childhood, that to be better means you're more loved, right? And to be first and to do it, and that you can see where that was the imbalance and actually kept my dad and his sister at odds for many years. And so not wanting to repeat that pattern, right? Again, generational, looking at the family, the familiar energies, and maybe we inherited the codes of jealousy, how we learned jealousy, and then how we propagated it into our field, right? And how it shows up in different arenas. I can also remember it showing up in, my sexual partnerships, finding myself in, competing with my partner, which is so, I didn't understand it until I looked at my own progress relocated and I realized my Mars had transited into Aries, right? So I was like, oh, in the 5th house. So I gave myself some grace, like, okay, you don't need to compete with your partner, be better than, right? That's an old version of you. Just be your best version self and allow them to be their best version self, right? But I also know the shadow, how it's manifested in my life, is because I have been avoiding, so just transparency, I've been single on purpose now, guys, for 20 years, since 2006. And I've been on this spiritual path, right, of transformation, of evolution, of studying astrology. I've gone through so many retreats. I've been through so many rituals with different religions, as my exploration of Sagittarius is taking me to different realms of consciousness, studying, different rituals that cultures are imbibing with, to really connect to the divine, right? Whatever that divine is for me. And so in my exploration, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, so just being transparent with the energy of jealousy, how it would show up for me would be in the workplace, right? If a new employee, because I was a bartender for many years, and as a new employee, if a new bartender got hired on and I felt that she was prettier than me or had a better body or whatever, then I would feel jealous. I would feel, that territorial energy that would come through. That's my 10th house. And so I really had to regulate that, like, oh my gosh, where's this coming from, right? This feeling is uncomfortable. Like, where's my self-worth? Where's my sense of self-love that you have your own unique gifts? Why do you got to be jealous of that better looking younger bartender, right? And this would also, show up in my personal relationships. If I was out to dinner with an ex-boyfriend and a beautiful woman walked in, I would instantly feel that, like, that tightening in my stomach, because I just projected, I knew, I was like, oh, I just know he finds her attractive. And I just know he wants to sleep with her, right? And these are the thoughts that would go through my head. And God, it was so toxic. It was like so uncomfortable. And so going back to the 20-year, on purpose, now what was coming in and facing my shadow is I'm coming at a Pisces myself. And the shadow that was coming through me was that, I've been on the spiritual path. And so I thought, being single was virtuous, right? That I just got to work on self, and it's been great. Don't get me wrong. I've loved being able to really figure out and find out who I am outside of relationship. But then there's a dance too. what I had to really sit with within my own shadow is, where has it become sort of this holier than now that I'm single on purpose and that's a virtue. And for transparency, I've been practicing celibacy now for 4 years. So I'm like virtuous because I'm celibate. I'm using my energy fields to generate my own current and to increase my life force vitality, which for those of you that practice retention or celibacy, there's a lot of work and a lot of magic that can be done with energy retention in that way, right? Using your sexual energy to actually go in and heal your body, which is what very much I've been doing. But my own shadow that came through today as I was conversing with the energy of jealousy itself, and where it still lingers within me, is that have I been using spirituality as a way to keep people at bay because I don't want to feel the energy of jealousy, because I know that's still within me, right? And so when you're in an interpersonal relationship or a sexual relationship, those feelings come up and it sucks. And I dislike them so much that a part of me was willing never to be in relationship, romantic partnership again, because I didn't want to feel that again. And so I'm realizing how that's hindering me from really experiencing what every true heart really wants, is just connection and union with your beloved, right? For me anyway, and what I've been able to see from the collective, because you guys remember I was a bartender for 25 years. It was all about human relationships. It was all about, partnerships. And during that time period, I saw a lot of imbalances within human partnerships. I remember one beach bar I worked at, there was a couple that would come in every Thursday, regular time every Thursday. They'd have a couple of Miller Lights, and they always seemed so snugged up and beautiful and just in love, right? And I remember having a conversation with them, and they both admitted that they actually were both cheating on each other's partners and meeting their clandestine. That was the bar that they went to, and that was like their meeting place every Thursday. And so I was invited into that experience because they were really open about it. They're like, yeah, we're neither one of us are happy in our partnership, so we're going to come here and meet, and we have this relationship. And I was really faced with like my own judgment, like, oh shit, this is interesting. And just kind of seeing again the shadow of humanity in returns of relationship, and just how things would happen, especially during certain chemicals. People drink at bars, and how different parts of their personality, their shadows would come up. And so anyway, it was just very much an interesting dynamic with human relationships, and going through that exploration of sitting with, because they're nice people. I mean, they're nice to me. They tip me well. I mean, who am I to judge, right? I was just part of the conversation. I was just an actor in their play, if you will. But when you see and experience things like that, dynamics outside of you, it's an invitation for you to be curious about, well, how would I handle that? Put yourself in somebody's shoes, right? As being the one that are happy, that's having this loving relationship outside of marriage. Because they seemed very happy and loving and great, and who was I to judge, right? But at the same time, I also knew I was feeling a compassion for the other partner who didn't know that this was going on. So I was, it was a conflicting time at that time, and it still is, because I can put myself in both scenarios. And again, having these experiences, this is what the wound is, it was coming up for me, that needs to be healed. And maybe that's why I'm talking about this, because maybe there's somebody out there that this can help, that I'm not the only one that's going through this, that you have kept yourself at bay from intimate and very vulnerable relationships, possibly, the love of your life, because you don't want to feel that jealousy. It's not a matter of if it's going to come up, it's when it comes up and how you're going to handle that. And so perhaps right now with this new moon, and with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries right now, we're being given the bravery to explore these shadow parts of us, these parts of us that are very uncomfortable, that we don't want to feel, that we hold within our energetic system, maybe because of our own experiences, maybe because it was inherited, because I was able, I'm here to do generational work, and I'm going to show transparently, this is my chart, guys. So just really quickly, for those that study astrology, you're looking here at the wheels. This inner wheel, the first wheel, is the energy of the new moon as of May 26, 2025. And when I look at using Astral Gold here, what I'm able to do is I'm able to pull up my own birth chart and correspond it to how it's relating to what's going on with this new moon energy, right? So you can see when it's nearing energy, this is the second wheel that I'm looking at right now. Here we are, Pluto, and my Pluto is in Libra, and it's transiting the 7th house. I'm talking about relationship, right? So, and of course, here we have right now, you know, the moon and Mercury, which is my progressed, or my natal rather, is in the 8th house, you know, underworld matters, things that are talking about sexuality, about, you know, the shadow of the 8th house in Scorpio, things that are hidden, things that are distorted, things that live in the underworld. And, you know, here's this Jupiter transit. I've also got Jupiter, you can see that in Aquarius. It's actually conjunct exact my Pluto. And so I need to be talking about this. Jupiter's expansion, Aquarius is groups, Pluto is things that are hidden. Again, Aquarius is also higher mind. It's futuristic thinking, it's hopes, dreams, and wishes. And so I'm feeling right now with this conjunction, these things need to be spoken about for myself, because there could be massive healing involved, which is also very Scorpionic, right? Scorpio is the healer. And so as I'm looking, again, this is my natal, and then I'm looking at what I look at too is the progress relocated. So where the planets have moved to since I've been born and based on where I live now, right? And so you can see here that this energy, I actually have it for Greenwich Village because it's the same time as where I'm at. So you can see where this energy right now progress located. It's Saturn, Aries. I've got to take responsible first house. It's aspecting and conjuncting. It's setting off this energy, right? You can see that right there, Chiron, there's a lot of healing that I can experience by talking about these underworld, underbelly emotions, feelings that we all experience collectively, again, 11th house. And so if I share my own story, this could be healing for me. Hopefully this could be healing for somebody else too. We've got Venus right now, also in Aries. And so Venus is our love and money, how we see ourselves, how we value ourselves. So jealousy for me tends to, you know, crawl in when you don't love yourself enough. I think about that adage about, from the I Ching, you know, when it talks about comparison, how an oak tree never compares itself to a bamboo, it just simply is. And so I really want to, I'm really moving towards and setting the attention to move to that state of mastery where there's nothing to be jealous of. It's transcending jealousy. Because if all is self, it's all you, then what are you jealous of? And what I've discovered within my own gnosis, you know, just doing my own deep dive, again, this transit of Mars in Leo, when I see other people expressing themselves the way I have dreamed of expressing myself, but I didn't feel worthy. This is also the Trine revelation. I didn't feel worthy of expressing myself in the way I saw others expressing themselves, that it became this distortion, and the distortion was jealousy. So right, I was jealous of somebody for doing what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the self-worth or self-love or the bravery or the wherewithal to put myself out there like that person did, or to do what they're doing, right? To have the courage to really follow my true bliss, heart's bliss. And so now I've upgraded it within myself. When I find that energy of jealousy come into my field, and so I catch myself, the higher mind again, it's also Aquarius, Pluto, I'm transforming what I'm thinking about. And I'm going, oh, so they're just showing me right now what I want. That's why jealousy's coming in, because they're actually living the life that's pointing me to more of my purpose, more of what I really truly want, my heart's desire, right? And that might have been hidden from myself. I didn't think I was worthy to you know, to live in Hawaii, or to have this life where you just, you know, I've always just wanted to keep it simple. Like I have more money on my credit card and I just keep going and traveling and living my best life and just always having abundance there when I need it, when I want it. You know, something simple. You don't really need much when you're exploring these realms, especially if you're Sag rising. You know, you just want to explore, and you just want to have enough money and resources to do it, right? You don't need as much. And the more you can release and surrender and give away things, the more you can receive. And so that's been the dance for me. And so what I've upgraded for jealousy for me is just pointing to, oh, they have a reality timeline experience that I really want to experience. So where do I need to allow myself to have that experience? So with this Saturn and Neptune conjunction coming in, it's giving me the courage and the structure, Aries, Saturn, Neptune, it's helping me tap into my true dreams, my true, what I really, really want to experience is Neptune, my true vision, And Saturn, it's going to give me some structure. It's going to give me some boundaries like, hey, you can have that reality, but you got to take some discipline, some action, give yourself some organization and actually do the thing, right? Go out there and do it, but do it in your own unique way, which is also Aquarius, right? It's unique, it's different, it's your own unique expression. This is also Aries. Show up authentically yourself, even if it's quirky or uncomfortable even to you. Go back and watch some of your videos and you're like, oh, this is cringy. But shit, you got to move through that, right? Because what are we here for? We're here to express ourselves authentically and to remove judgment, which could also be very much Saturn. So Saturn, just watch the shadow side of Saturn, which could be very dictator and it's got to be this way, But this trine is giving us this fluid energy to say, allow yourself to follow your heart and do what feels good, follow your bliss. And in that, you're going to be able to repair, restructure, reorganize these dissonant energies of jealousy, of competition, of needing to be first, when really all is self. You can look to other, really when you anchor in oneness and all is self, then you get to enjoy the other's expressions because they're all you, right? It's like, I've also got Cancer natally in the 8th house. I think of it like the cosmic mother, right? Seeing all the creations and just really loving everybody's creations for who they are and what they are, being their authentic selves and really allowing myself to see them for their truth outside of the lens of jealousy or judgment or whatever else I'm projecting in my shadow realms because I, again, didn't feel worthy. Again, pointing it back to self and how I can alchemize these energies within myself by pointing back to self, because you can only change yourself. You can't change the other. You can't, that's not what this is about. This is about when these energies, these landmines come up to catalyze you into thinking, into some are called triggers, I call them activations. When you get activated in your psyche and your neural pathways, this is something for you to address and to gather within yourself. So let me take another sacred breath here. Take a drink. And guys, you can also see where are these energies transits happening for you. Again, when I'm looking at the chart as I'm navigating how these expressions are coming through my own blueprint, it's going to be unique to you, but these energies are collective and all of us feel it. So it just depends on how it manifests. Again, it's okay to talk about these things. Here's the transit again. We feel the need, Gemini, to speak about these things. It actually expands us. It expands our consciousness. It's healing. This is also Chiron right now because it's lying in between this portal of energy and it's sextiling. And then what we've come to learn, which is also, South Node and North Node, is actually squaring. And squares mean there needs to be something to change, right? So it's also squaring Jupiter right now. How we expand is based on what we're thinking, what we're perceiving, how we're engaging with these energies, these definitions, these frequencies that we all experience as humans. And so the main word that wanted to be focused on and alchemized today, because it's a big word, it's a big conversation, it's a big energy, is the energy of jealousy. And so it won't be so, it's like facing the dragon, right? It won't be so big if we can just look at it honestly and express it and allow it to, come out and be alchemized, give it a new geometric pattern, give it a new form, give it a new understanding, love that part of you that faces that shadow aspect. I'm gonna just stop sharing now. So yeah, guys, this is just what wanted to be transmitted today. It was a lot of energy, a lot of interesting conversations right now as we start exploring. Look at your algorithm, pay attention to the things that come across your feed, whatever's being fed to you, whatever you're feeding on, consumption energy. This is also Taurus. And Gemini is asking you to question everything, to explore, to assimilate the data, right? Get clear on these energies within you. Be the psychopomp, which is able to traverse the netherworld of your consciousness, going into the inner realms of you to explore these perhaps shadow aspects. And do it with coherence and love, and with this aspect that's giving us support right now, to do it with personal power, right? The power to face these shadows, these perceived demons, divided parts of you that have probably segregated or separated or fractaled itself out because it didn't want to feel it, because everybody wants to have a different experience. We're here to change up. It's happening anyway. Change is the constant, inevitable. So how are you changing with the flow? What words are you using? I would invite you also too to explore, the roots of language. Again, one of my teachers, Sivan Bomar from Secret Energy and Understanding, he has this really incredible free ebook called Breaking the Matrix, or no, the Code of the Matrix. And he really, goes into this exploration about language in the program. It's a really interesting data assimilation if you want to go down that rabbit hole. Again, we're in Gemini season, so why not, right? Start looking at the roots of words, of language, of, again, the verbs. To verb is to act, to the reverberations, the vibrations that come through us literally create our reality. It matters, right? It comes into form. And so as we are exploring these higher realms in the higher octave of Aquarius, of Pluto, and its inception through Mercury, which is also, it's the lower mind. Aquarius is the higher minds that are having this beautiful cosmic conversation right now to get real with your shadow and to look at it in a more loving, neutral way so that you can alchemize it. And when you do that for yourself, then you upload that into the Akashic record field, and then somebody else who's watching this or can have this conversation with themselves can feel healed because they felt heard. It's not like you're the only one going through this, right? We have to normalize that this is okay. This is part of the energy and frequency of jealousy. So let's talk about it. Let's raise the vibration up. Let's put ourselves in situations when you feel it, just catch yourself, right? I call it the stop, drop, and roll. When you feel jealousy next, which you're gonna, welcome to being human. So when you feel jealousy next, this is what I do, and it helps me quite a bit. I call it the stop, drop, and roll. Right? I stop what I'm thinking. I drop into my heart. I roll into the next breath, and I really allow myself to feel what's coming up for me at that time. Because it's only in that now time moment where your true personal power is that you can use that alchemy to upgrade, to take that energy of jealousy and then to form it, to transform it, to alchemize it into awareness that, oh, that's what I want. Okay, so jealousy is pointing to me what I really want to experience. So I don't need to feel jealous anymore, unless you want to. But if you don't want to and it sucks and it makes you sick, which it does me, then this is the way that I've been navigating to thinking and working with my own synapses through tapping, through positive mantra affirmations, through consistency, and being willing to face my shadow when it comes up, when I get triggered. I try not to bury it anymore, or go eat something, or distract myself from what I'm feeling. I just allow myself to sit with it, which maybe we're all being called to do right now while Mercury is traversing through the underworld, and allowing yourself to see clearly what's been hidden. And it doesn't have to hurt anymore. You can heal from this. So let's just send some love to our brothers and sisters who are living out loud, who are living in their polarized states, who are activating society and communities into being their true authentic selves, because they themselves are allowing their shadows to be seen, their imbalanced selves, parts of themselves, however you want to call it. And so it's actually healing for us to see this and to experience it and to question these things within ourselves. This is the cosmic conversation that wanted to be brought through today. And I'm going to be doing more on my Patreon page, guys. I'm actually going to be pulling some cards for the collective. So this is going to be a part 2. If you want to join me on that cosmic conversation, I'm going to be pulling card 1, 2, or 3. And again, this is going to be for my Patreon members. If you want to go join in, it's only $333 to join in the community. It helps with the exchange and the law of reciprocity as I'm learning to receive, right? But I'm also wanting to keep this clean and clear. I know this is an astrology channel, so I do my best to keep it mostly astrologicals, but I love cards. I love divination tools. So if you want to explore more of the astrology with the tarot, with the oracle card reading, check out my Patreon page, and we can go deep diver into that. Again, it's only $333, and you can have full access to the deeper dive conversations as we start exploring more and getting more into these energies and frequencies, because we are the alchemists. We are the change that we've been waiting for. So we're not waiting anymore. We're not being held down by these frequencies. We're alchemizing them, and we're having the next higher octave experience. If you choose, this is a choice point, Gemini, right? It's 2. So anyway, here's to choosing from the heart, choosing from the mind. It's not either or, it's and more. Working with Organite to keep myself working with whatever tools work for you. And again, if you liked any of this content or any of this exploration or conversation, please share, like, subscribe, send this to someone who might be going through their own struggles with jealousy and relationship. And just know you're not alone, that this is a collective energy issue right now, that a lot of people are showing themselves in their shadows. And so instead of judging, let's observe, right? Let's see how it's affecting you. If it's a trigger for you, then there's something there for you. And it's just an exploration without judgment. Just go in and do the work, whatever that means. You've got the tools, you've got the know-how, it's just tapping into it. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for joining in this conversation, and be tuning in tomorrow for, segment number 7 on this 30-day cosmic exploration of the conscious energy involved, intended to raise the consciousness of humanity, to get us into oneness, all is self, and to really reflect on how these energies are you and how you can better navigate and have a better experience, be a better human of this reality by just understanding these currents in a very neutral, cohesive language, which I find with the tool of astrology. So thanks for speaking the language with me. Thanks for joining the conversation, and check out the Patreon page for some Oracle card pulls. Okay.